So in early December, for a class called Study of Kyoto, we went on a field trip to Kyoto, which was honestly the only reason anyone chose that class, because, wow, that class was really boring. The only good thing was that we got to go on this cheap trip to Kyoto. And so here we are, we're on this coach, and it's really early in the morning, and we've been studying this city for roughly maybe about 2 months, so expectations were pretty high. So we finally arrived in Kyoto, and everyone was absolutely shattered, and it was flipping freezing. It was so cold, and it's because Kyoto is a city which is just surrounded by mountains, so the wind just funnels in, and it was cold. God, it was cold. But luckily, we were immediately treated to the spectacular Kyoto station. And you'll notice that apart from the big Kyoto Tower, the big tower that you can see, there's no tall buildings, and this is because there's actually a restriction on building height to preserve the historic scenery of this ancient capital. So then, whilst everyone was still half asleep, we hopped on a train and we went to go and learn how to make traditional Japanese sweets, or wagashi. And yeah, after about an hour of being very confused and very lost, we made something that vaguely looked like what we were supposed to be making, and then we left. And yeah, honestly, it was a very underwhelming way to start the day. We were then given a tour around a traditional Japanese house, and it was really interesting for all of 5 minutes. Then it was really boring. It was nice seeing the tatami mats, the straw mats you get on the floor, and the paper sliding doors, but there's only so much of that you can take, and after what felt like a few hours, we were pretty ready to leave.
To keep merchandise, as Kyoto was prone to fire, a work like known to resist fire was kept on the side of the storehouse as a fire control.
But it wasn't all doom and gloom, because next we hopped on a bus and we went to Gion, which is the historical district of Kyoto, and it was beautiful. If you were ever to see a geisha in Kyoto, and they are there, you can see them at specific times, this is the area that you would see one, but we weren't there at the right time. We didn't see one, but it was still one of the highlights of the trip nonetheless. So after what seemed like a very long day, we checked into a hostel and we did some exploring. We walked around and we talked about how Kyoto wasn't really what we were expecting. It was a little bit less unique than we were hoping it to be, but I think our expectations were just a little bit too high. And we didn't stay out too late. We went to bed quite early because in the morning there was something that we had to do. The next day, because of the tight schedule of the trip, we got up at 5 in the morning to go and see the famous temple Kiyomizu Dera, and it was absolutely magical. After that, we then hopped on another bus, and we went to see another temple. We went to go and see the Ryoanji temple, and this is where the famous Ryoanji rock garden is. After that, we went to a university to have a lecture on how to deal with natural disasters in Kyoto, since a lot of buildings in Kyoto are wooden and there's lots of temples, and Japan is quite prone to natural disasters. But to be honest, everyone was really tired, most people just zoned out at this point. I didn't film any of it, wasn't worth it, but we did see some nice cats, so there you go. After that, we hopped on a tram and we were off to Arashiyama, which is one of my favourite places in Kyoto. So at this point, our sensei is just explaining to us about how this convenience store, Lawson, is usually bright blue. The front of it is normally bright blue. But in Kyoto, there's a rule where you can't have bright coloured buildings and bright coloured banners, because everything has to be very in keeping with the traditional look of the city. And so, instead of being bright blue in Kyoto, this building's brown. The more you know. So after wandering around Arashiyama for a while and losing friends, then finding them and then immediately losing them again, we realised that there was only enough time to do one last thing. We had half an hour to do one last thing. And that last thing turned out to be my favourite thing we did on the entire trip. But if we were to make it back in time, we had to run our asses off. And so our 2-day adventure in Kyoto is coming to an end, and we'd had a fantastic time. We had an absolutely brilliant time. It wasn't what we expected, but it was such a unique experience that I will never forget it. Whether it's us complaining about the cold, or how urban the city is, or how touristy the city is, or when we were absolutely spellbound by some of the tranquil temples or the incredible monkey park. It was all an incredible experience. And the icing on the cake was this incredible light show that we were treated to in Kyoto Station. Whilst we were waiting for the bus, me and my friend Sho were just absolutely mesmerised by this thing. We'd never seen anything like it, so great stuff. It was a nice way to end the trip.